Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lavender Water Podcast. This is your host, Matthew Williams, and today I'm being joined by a decorated guest. Apparently, he's a PhD. He's got multiple patents in the United States Patent Office. Give it up for Mark Merriwether Vorderbruggen.
Yes, well done. Vorderbruggen. There's no right or wrong way to say it as long as you have the sixth letter an R and the 13th letter an N.
All right, then. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a beautiful day down here in Houston, Texas.
Excellent, excellent. So when you presented your pitch to me, you said, would I like to talk to a professional caveman with caveman activities to improve daily life? So let's get into that. Why do you describe yourself as a caveman?
Well, that's what I try and do. So you mentioned my background. So I was classically trained in chemistry with a master's in medicinal chemistry, a PhD in organic chemistry, and years of work in the industry. But at the same time, I had a secret life as an instructor of foraging, so finding edible and medicinal plants out from the wild. And as I got deeper and deeper into that, I came to realize a lot of the modern health issues like anxiety and diabetes and high blood pressure was very likely due to the fact that we are no longer doing what our caveman ancestors did, what they evolved. The world they evolved in is no longer here. We got rid of it. We made life much easier and comfortable, but in doing so, we lost a lot of things. And so my goal is to try and reconnect people to that ancestral health through simple activities that they can do to add to their life.
All right, because just at face value, I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about, but I like that it has meaning. I like that there's a mission behind it, and I'm definitely about natural cures and herbs and medicines and the like.
Awesome. All right. Okay. So one of the things, so all this has scientific basis and background. So let's start by hopping over to Japan. In Japan, they have really screwed up demographics. They have a whole bunch of old people and only a few young people. Their birth rates plummeted back in like the 70s and 80s. And so their whole population pyramid is inverted. The Japanese government then put a bunch of research into how can we maintain the health of people as they get old so they aren't as big of a drain on the resources of the few young people that are around. One of the really interesting things they found was the more time you spend walking on uneven ground, the better off your health is when you get older. There's basically three parts to this.
Okay.
One, when you are walking on uneven ground, as we evolved to do, our brain is constantly sensing the ground underneath us and making micro adjustments to our body, to our balance, to keep us upright and moving on the slippery, trippy, bumpy, rolling surface. This is what our brain evolved to do. It's great exercise for the brain. It's like doing Sudoku or learning a new language. The brain is going, yes, I'm getting a workout here. When you come back from the gym and you just feel pumped up, that's what your brain is feeling like. So it's getting that input it evolved to get and sending the output it evolved to put out. It's exercising the brain. So this holds off dementia and memory loss and cognitive fog, brain fog, if you will, all this sort of thing. Another benefit from walking just on uneven ground is it strengthens your core muscles, because your core muscles are the ones that are responsible for your balance, keeping your body upright. And as they're getting that workout, doing that, they become stronger. And there's a direct correlation between core body muscle strength and overall health.
Okay.
Another thing that happens. Yeah. is the sense of balance improves. You get better at not falling over. Where this comes into play is this balance and this ability sticks with you, so you are less likely to fall and break a hip when you're older. And if you're over 70 and you fall and break a hip, it's almost a death sentence. Very few people live more than like a year or 2 years after that because it's such a huge impact in the life. So just walking around on uneven ground does wonderful, healthy things to the body.
Well, that's a nice thing to know.
Yeah. Then if you go barefoot, you get more in contact, you get more sensory input. You know, obviously you want to do that in a safe place without a lot of dog poo or anything like that around. But yeah, you know, if you go back to our ancestral ways of walking on barefoot.
Yeah,
so
my ex-girlfriend, she to this day still walks around barefoot. Everybody back from home calls her crazy, but yeah, I get it.
Oh, there's certain benefits to it. You know, there's some, you know, you have to do everything within, you know, a certain amount of wisdom. You know, you don't want to walk across, like here in Houston, the air temperature is around, well, today it's supposed to get up around 104. And so the asphalt and the pavement is something like 127 degrees Fahrenheit. You don't walk barefoot on that. You're going to burn your feet, you know. But on the grass, and, you know, that's fine.
I'm real big on earthing, is what we call it. I don't know if there's another word for it, what you call it. But it's like a true example. A few weeks ago, my feet were really hurting. I work a warehouse job, 12-hour shifts, and you have to stand. They look at you crazy if you try to sit down. So your feet hurt. So get back home, and I just know I have to put my feet on the ground. So go in the backyard, and I'm like massaging my feet with the dirt beneath me, and my feet didn't hurt anymore after like 15 minutes.
Exactly. You instinctively do that. And just to go sideways for a second, if you look into things right now, they're saying sitting is the new smoking. We all sit too much, and that has its own health issues. And
yeah.
If you look at like a lot of the early cultures, they don't sit the way we do in the Western world. They squat down on their haunches, and that actually has some really strong effects on the body too. Just the squatting down on balance. And there's basically between our muscles and our organs and bones and everything, there's a whole another layer of tissue that basically kind of holds us together.
Mm-hmm.
And the one of the things that squatting does in the proper caveman style is it helps strengthen that tissue and just makes our whole body, again, physically stronger, which leads to better health.
Well, so to go into this one with you, so since I was like a kid, I used to do the squat, and like it seemed like I was the only person around me that could do it, like because I'm like really flat foot. So like all my other friends, they just don't understand how I do it, and it's just like you just drop down and do it. And you know, a lot of people have good difficulty. So like when I was like 17, I had a part-time job. And this lady just randomly walks up on me, stocking shelves. And she's like, "Are you Korean?" And I was like, "What does that mean?" It's like, clearly I'm a black man. But it's like, I guess, you know, as I went out into the world and went to San Francisco and saw like the Chinese cooks, they were like out back squatting, how, you know, like, and it's like, you know, in the Eastern Hemisphere, and it was like, in the West, we got a really messed up relationship with sitting, posture, a lot of things with health.
Yep, exactly. And yeah, like I've spent quite a few months in China, and everyone's back there squatting down in the alleys, playing dice and smoking cigarettes and everything, you know, and it's like, damn, you guys know what you're doing. Okay, so another really good caveman activity that doesn't sound like a caveman activity, but it truly is throwing things at stuff. And, you know, if you think about kids, they're constantly throwing things. It's just like it's an innate desire in us, because it really is. There's a lot of theory that is very strongly supported by studies that a lot of what made us human was our very unique ability to accurately and precisely and with great strength throw things at stuff. Because then if we took out a little bunny rabbit with a rock, we got to eat that rabbit. And that gave us a whole bunch of protein and, well, not so much fat in the case of rabbits, but, it gave us a lot of nutrients that we couldn't otherwise get. So as we evolved, we got better and better at throwing things. One of the really interesting things is inside the human brain, the part of the brain that controls throwing is right up against the part that controls speech. So as we got better at throwing, the theory is we also got better at speech, which allowed us then to communicate hunting ideas with each other, and just became even better and better and better. But again, going back to the throwing things, it's another great exercise for the brain. And I tell people, go play bocce ball or cornhole or darts or throw axes at the local axe throwing place. If you can't do any of that, just juggle. Learn to juggle. Because not only is juggling really good for the brain, it's also some good exercise. If you juggle for 10 minutes, you're going to be tired at first, because you're moving your arms in a way you're not usually moving them. Usually you have to stand while you're juggling, so you got that going on.
So it's funny because I'm sorry. I'm from Ohio, and I live in Georgia, and these are really big places for cornhole. Like, I've personally never been a cornhole person, but, horseshoes, cornhole. I have some friends that were jugglers. This is all good stuff right
here. Yeah. And it's a way of having fun, too. And one of the nice things about the, cornhole and horseshoes, and they are social games. And so another thing that they found is just the more regular social contact you have with some sort of group, a bowling league, a book club, a Tuesday night drinking beer in your driveway with your neighbors, any of that improves the health, because it improves the mental side of things. And as you feel more connected to those around you, your mood improves, your immune system becomes stronger. Your body just builds up its defenses better.
Have you ever played the video game? I'm sorry I keep interrupting you. This is a really interesting conversation this morning. Have you ever played the video game The Sims?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
So long story short, it's like a real life simulator. You create a person, you make them live a life, and you play as long as till they die, or till you change who you play with or whatever. But basically, like, to keep your person happy and healthy, this person has bars under them, which fill up and deplete as time go on. So there's a hunger meter, you got to eat. There's a hygiene meter, you got to bathe. There's the social meter, and it's like in the first game, the social meter kind of depletes fast, encouraging you to go out and meet other Sims and talk to them and stuff. But it's like, it's kind of hard to do when, I got to do all these other things, and then I got to go make some money, and then, what I'm saying? So it's like, it really kind of creates the simulation of adulting. Like, hey, sometimes the mental health kind of goes to the back burner sometimes, So it's like, it's a really important part to be social, to be out here, to interact with people, and, to not be a shut-in.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, when the whole COVID thing started, and they said everyone has to stay in the house and not be, with anyone else, I thought that is the worst advice ever. We need to be outside getting our vitamin D. When you go outside, they've shown it actually triggers an improvement in the immune system. Let's go sideways for that for a second, because when you think about evolution, you can think about using energy. Life is about using energy, and you only have so much energy, so you can only do so many things. If you spend that energy doing one thing, that can't be spent doing another. So one of the things that occurred is humans evolved that when we're in our home, our cave, our hut, or whatever, our immune system actually drops some because it's a low risk area. And then the energy that could be used or would be used by the immune system gets to be used by other things in our body. But then when we would head outside into the wild to hunt or to fish or to gather or, whatever, our immune system would start to rack up because that's when we were likely to encounter an injury, an infection, or a disease of some sort. So just going outside raises the immune system. And then in the COVID, they're telling, no, you can't go outside. You got to stay inside. You got to separate from everyone. If you look at the mental health issues that exploded during COVID and the youth suicide and all this stuff, it's like this was completely predictable if you understood humans.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of ranting there, but yeah. So, but the whole social aspect, it's hard. Like you said, in adulting, trying to do all these things, one of the things I've always told my kids is that in a lot of cases, friendships will be a factor of geography. Who just happens to be near you? Those are the ones you're going to have to learn to be friends with, because in life, you can't go seeking out, friends very far away because you got all this other stuff you got to do. So your coworkers, your classmates, those are the ones that you got to pick from. So you just got to learn to, get along with people. In the long run, it'll be better for you. Build your tribe and stick with it. And then when you move or they move, that's what happens in life. And it'll be sad maybe, but you'll meet other people. But put yourself in situations where you do meet other people and be open to meeting other people, because it's great for us.
Yeah, we're social beings. We have to talk. We have to interact. We have to love.
Mm-hmm. We have to joke. We have to laugh. We have to dance. We have to sing. It's what we do. We don't do enough of it anymore. And that's what I'm trying to bring out. Get back outside, throw things at stuff, walk around and, off the pavement. When you look at the mental health aspects of this, for like kids with attention deficit disorders, they've shown if you're just out in the wild, off the pavement, in the woods, for just 30 minutes, 4 times a week, a lot of these symptoms of attention deficit disorder plummet. And it goes back to sensory input. When you're out in the wild, when you're outside, your eyes are looking at stuff. They're constantly looking at the different colors of the plants and the lizards and the birds and the water running over the rocks and whatever. Your skin is picking up the feel of the wind. Your feet, we already talked about the feet sensing the ground. Your hands are touching, tree bark and rocks and lizards and flowers. You're smelling all this stuff. All your senses are being activated, and your brain is just sucking in all this information, the way it evolved to interact with the environment. And it's loving it. It's going, yes, this is what I need. Whereas if you just set a kid in a room, in a chair for 12 hours every day, not doing anything, the only thing that's being stimulated is maybe their eyes and their thumbs, the brain just starts pacing like a wild caged beast, because in that situation, it is a caged beast. It needs to be out in the wild. That's what it evolved to sense, it evolved to do.
Yeah, it's that's kind of how I had to grow up, because I was like an only child living in quote unquote the hood. So my mom didn't really feel like it was safe for me to just play outside, by myself. So I was parked in front of the TV and the video games for like 16 years, So it's to a point where it's like I don't even have a TV these days, I don't have a video game system. I'm really outside as much as I can be, like all the time. Like my roommates will tell you, like he's always outside.
Oh, good. Yep, and you're doing what we evolved to do. You're a caveman, my friend, like me. You know what's going on here. I'm going to make you a fellow preacher of cavemanosity. We got to spread this message to others.
Yeah, so that's what we're all here for, especially on these podcast platforms. Just giving pieces of ourselves to the world and letting people know that they're not alone.
Yep. And there are other ways of doing things than what society says right now. And you don't have to lock yourself in and stare at a computer screen. Go outside, touch the leaves.
Touch grass.
Yes, exactly. We need more of that. And they've done all sorts of studies that the more green spaces available in cities, the happier the citizens of the city are and the healthier they are. So a lot of cities, like here in Houston, over the last 20 years, there's been a huge push to build all sorts of new city parks and green spaces and wild spaces. And it's like, that's awesome. Because they've finally recognized the value. Because overall, Houston does not have a lot to offer. We have great restaurants and we have NASA. But other than that, there's no reason to come to visit Houston. But as they're making it more green, it's an excellent city to live in. There's no reason to visit it, but it's a pretty damn good place to grow up and to have access to the wild. I think they want like wild places within like 4 or 5 blocks of every citizen. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
So within like walking distance or bicycling distance, you can go down to the park and to the bayou and throw rocks into the water.
Yeah, they need to do something like that for New York City because, man, all that concrete, all those uptight people.
Yep. Yeah, my 16-year-old daughter just went to be in New York City for 6 weeks this summer with the Ellison Ballet Company, and she loves it. This is her second summer spending in New York, and it's like, how? I know. Oh, I've been there. It's not, it's not my world, but she seems to like it.
Yeah, everyone gravitates to different places. It's just all in the past.
Yep.
What was it like going to school for a PhD?
Ooh. So after I graduated high school, I was in school for another 10 years straight between undergraduate, master's, and PhD. So, it was basically a continuation. The TV show Friends?
Yeah.
It was kind of like that, but with a lot less money involved. It's just a group of people hanging out. I've known a lot of military people. I'm not military people, but they talk about their foxhole friends, the people that they bonded with under extreme conditions in their life.
Right.
And that's kind of what it was like, going for grad school, is you're with this group of people. You are going through hell, but there is a really, cheap bar somewhere, and so you alternate between high stress and I won't say debauchery, but, it's a kind of a very interesting time of life because you are somewhat still protected. You're on your own. Like I grew up in Minnesota, but I actually did my grad school in upstate New York, up in a place called Rensselaer Polytech in Troy, New York. And so you're with this group of people. No one has any money. You're living 4 in an apartment, but you're having a good time. You're stressed out. You're working 28 hours and then sleeping for 4 and working for 28 again and stuff. But it's I know it's kind of like being in a MASH unit. If you remember the TV show MASH.
I remember it, but I never watched it.
Okay. So that was a bunch of doctors in the Korean War, and they had downtime where they were joking and laughing, and then other times when the patients would show up and they're in surgery for 36 hours straight. And it was kind of like that. It's like, I don't know. It's hard to describe. I want to say it's like military for gamers, maybe, in a way where you don't actually have to be in physical shape. Most of us were, because we didn't have cars and, we were walking everywhere. We couldn't afford a lot of food. So, but yeah, it was definitely an adventure. You need a certain amount of ego So if you have brains, you get the master's. If you have ego, you go for the PhD. And at the time, I had a lot of ego. Because just brains alone, you need that tenacious, damn it, you're not going to break me.
Yeah.
You find out that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to, basically the PhD is, how far can we push your brain before it breaks? And saw many a grown man cry in grad school. It's like, why are they doing this? They want to make sure, at the time, like in the chemistry degree, there were, I think, across the nation, less than 1,000 PhDs in chemistry granted back in the 90s when I was doing this. I mean, it's actually, we realize it's actually pretty elite. I mean, there's like tens of thousands of Marines, become Marines every year. So we're more elite than Marines, sort of thing, Wouldn't want to say that to a Marine because he'd kick my ass, but, that's kind of the feeling you have to go in.
It is a very special field because I remember taking chemistry in sophomore year and hating it every single day.
Well, one thing they never tell you, but there's some secrets to chemistry, and it's basically plus goes to minus and minus goes to plus. And once you understand what are the pluses and what are the minuses, after that it all clicks into place.
What are the pluses and minuses?
Yeah, what are the pluses and minuses? The charges, all that sort of stuff. But once you understand that fundamental concept, it becomes much easier. But then is figuring out what is a positive and what is a negative, or what is a plus, what is a minus. That's the part that needs a brain that can kind of stretch and bend and fold in ways that a lot of people don't bother with.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like I would just look at it and it's like, yeah, I'm not really understanding it. Clearly, this isn't what I'm going to do with my life. But congratulations to you for going through that journey, being passionate about it, and still being here.
My pleasure. It's part of what made me what I am. It gives me a certain amount of credibility when I talk about this stuff too, because I've looked at the science. I understand the statistical analysis and what the p-value of the results mean and all this sort of thing. That's not that common for a lot of herbalists and cavemen.
Yeah, especially, a lot of people that practice medicine naturally usually don't go to school for it. So it's like, people always want to be like, he's not a real doctor. Well, I don't believe you. Like, but did it work though? Like,
exactly, yeah. And in my case, I can point to the specific, like I said, statistical analysis of the results that say, yes, this worked better than, a placebo or, some other type of medicine, or worked as good as some other type of synthetic, man-made medicine.
Right. Everything derived from heroin for some reason.
Yeah, and don't forget CBD. That's a big one now too.
So what's the journey looking like moving forward?
Ooh. Okay, that's a question. I have not been asked, but it is something I've been thinking about for quite a while, because I've been on this journey, especially like the teaching and all that, for 20 years now, on top of everything else I do. And I got to tell you, I'm getting a little tired. I'm getting a little burned out. Like today, I have another podcast interview at 1, and then I have to run out and gather a bunch of elderberry flowers because I'm teaching a class in making elderberry flower and echinacea root candy this evening. And then, like this weekend, and my weekends are tied up, I'll be driving 5 hours to this nature preserve, teaching people how to make pasta infused with wild plants. I'll be doing that class twice, and then driving home. And so I'm constantly on the go. I'm constantly writing, magazine articles and doing podcasts and teaching and all this stuff. And I'm 54 years old. And my family has a long history of growing very old. Both my parents are in their late 80s. My dad will turn 88 in August, but he's still out there hunting.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So my family has a long history of, getting, in the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, healthy as a horse, and then dying of something in like 3 months, which in the scheme of things is actually not a bad life. So, but I think, I have at least 30 years ahead of me where I know I can, if assuming I don't get hit by a fallen tree or something or eaten by a bear, I'll still be out in the wild doing what I do. But I've gotten so wrapped up in teaching others that I don't have the time for myself just to go out in the woods and, hang out. Because when I'm out in the woods nowadays, it's with a crowd of people showing them, what they can eat, what they can use as medicine, what they can make cordage out of, how to make fire, the primitive skill sort of stuff. And I've started taking on some apprentices, and that's helping. And part of me is thinking maybe it's time to hang up my walking stick or my teaching stick and let others take over. But that whole ego thing we talked about, getting the PhD,
right?
That's kind of in the way. I say no, because it's also kind of a rock star life. I mean, I have books out. People have me autograph their books, and there's just this huge, any performer with a live audience, if they're good, they get that energy back from the crowd, and it's just kind of a mutual energizing sort of thing. And I do love that.
Yeah.
So I'll be tired and depressed or whatever leading up to it, and then the class will start, and it's like, bam, up on stage, got this, got it going on, sort of thing, and that is very hard to give up too. So, long story short, there's what I want, there's what I should do, and there's what I will do, just like every other human.
Have you considered, kind of going the quarantine pandemic route, like taking your workshops and then like making them videos to be consumed online?
Oh, I do a lot of those. Yeah, I'm constantly doing online presentations via Zoom or for all sorts of different organizations, for master naturalists, for State Park, for down here we have the Texas A&M AgriLife University, constantly doing that sort of thing.
Well, like what if exclusively, instead of appearing in front of people, driving 5 hours to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so part of it, we have to go back to 2020. Yeah, 2020 now. January of 2020, I finally did my life's goal and bound up with two other guys, and we formed Medicine Man Plant Co., bringing these ancient plants that we evolved using for health back into the modern world. And I'm the face and formulator. I'm the medicine man of the company. We have a guy that is an excellent businessman. He keeps all the paperwork, proper, and the tax and all that sort of thing. And then there's a guy with just a whole lot of money who believes in an ancestral lifestyle that kind of funded it. Mm. So to promote the company, I have to be out there, talking about it. I have to show them, look at me. This is, I'm 6'4", 220 pounds. Pretty good shape for a 54-year-old guy. Because I'm doing this caveman stuff, I want you to. These products, the Medicine Man Plant Co. products, these are kind of crutches to help you get to that health level where you can switch over to lifestyle stuff to maintain it. And then these are the lifestyle things you should be doing to maintain your health and reduce the diabetes, reduce the blood pressure, help your brain, all that sort of thing. Yeah. So if I'm not out in front of people, then Medicine Man Plant Co. isn't in front of people.
Okay.
Everyone wears handcuffs. It's just which handcuffs are you going to wear?
Right. But yeah, so when you look at it like this, would you rather be fully booked, constantly on the move, or would you rather be dang, how can I get this off the ground? How can I get people to consume this?
Exactly. And so I'd rather have, be able to turn opportunities away because I have too many on my plate already than be constantly, striving. I grew up constantly, hustling. Dad always said, if you don't have 3 jobs, you're not doing it right. And he was kind of right and kind of wrong, in that regard. But it got me to where I am. So, and some of it is really exciting. So there's here in Texas, there's a big craft brew guild, and all the different breweries and beer makers are involved in it. And one of the things I teach is making beer from, air quotes around the word beer right now, from different wild plant seeds, because that's how we evolved. We humans made beer, air quotes, out of damn near anything that had starch in it. And so one of the things I teach is how to do this. And so this one guild recently hired me on to work with them, work with different brewers, and really go in depth into that whole process. I'm really excited about that. So I'm at the point now where I can somewhat pick and choose my opportunities to, where I'm going to teach. Does it really interest me? If it doesn't interest me, I got the, some of the apprentices now that I can send out to those groups, and I take the choice ones for myself. But yeah, it still involves, getting up at 3 a.m, driving 5 hours, teaching 8 hours, and driving home. Well, if the gas prices is a killer, but whatever.
Right. Well, I appreciate that you chose this podcast to come drop some knowledge on us.
Well, I looked at your stuff. It seemed to make sense. So.
Yeah, it works with the brand, and you got a lot of accolades, very active. The kind of entrepreneur I strive to be.
Yeah, definitely. That's especially nowadays. Well, my dad always said, if you do something no one else wants to do, that's how you can make money. But it has to be something that they need done. But I've been lucky enough to help build the understanding that, yes, you need this. And that has its own sort of benefits, I guess. Ego, patting myself on the back here. But yeah, so it's. I firmly believe everyone needs a side hustle. That's something I've taught my kids, because you can never know when your main job, something's going to happen and it's going to go away.
Yeah. These jobs.
I was lucky enough. I was lucky enough that my side hustle turned into my main job, basically. And for now, it's going great. Well, it's going good. I won't say it's going great, but it's going good.
It sounds like it's going great. I just from how you painted it, I don't know. But I mean, you're living it, so.
Yeah. I have a roof over my head. I have food in the fridge. What more can a person ask for?
The man that knows when enough is enough will always have enough.
I've seen rich people. They don't seem any happier than I am.
Man, I used to live around the rich people, Peachtree City, Georgia. I took an Uber ride one time when I first moved out there. It was this lady, she was from Missouri, and she moved there with her husband, and she became like a socialite in town or whatever. So she said she's hanging out with these people, and they have the big house, they have the foreign car outside, but when you go inside, there's nothing in the house. So I was like, you're telling me that you bought the house, or whatever you're doing with this house, and you're making it look like you got it going on, but you sleeping on the floor?
Oof. Yep. There's a lot of that abuse where people pretend to be richer than they are.
I think it's a worldwide thing, really. I think it's concentrated in the West, but like it's kind of a human thing in capitalism.
Oh, and it's not even just in humans. So a lot of birds and animals, to get their mate, they have to display some sort of extra energy. So
Yeah.
like birds, the bright plumage and so forth, that's to show, look, I have so much health that I can put this big display on and still be able to produce, lots of babies. And so the ladybirds go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. They did this one study. There's a type of bird with this long tail. And scientists glued tail extensions onto some of them. And suddenly those were the ones that were getting all the female birds. It had this big, extra big, long tail. And to the female birds, that indicated good breeding potential. So I think it's almost innate in anything with a brain, pretty much. There's got to be some way of picking your mate, whether you're banging your antlers together like deer or something, but displaying more power than your competitors.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's just essentially the game.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fault them for that. It's almost hardwired into, I'm assuming, anything that reproduces sexually. So, any insect or, frog making the croaking noises, whatever. It's showing they have more power than their competitors.
Yeah.
Evolution, it messes us up.
So, what would you leave the audience with? Something they can take and apply in their lives. Besides everything you just said.
Oh, okay. I'm still going to go get outside. If not get outside, meet your neighbors. That's something that's really become odd in America, is people will live 20, 30 years next to someone and not know them. Build your local tribe. There's a great thing to do this. It's beautifully simple. You go next door and say, hey, can I borrow a cup of sugar? And it's like I was baking and I thought I had sugar and I don't. Do you have any sugar? Just something like that. A simple request, because they've shown that people are hardwired. If you do a favor for someone, in your brain that clicks that person over into the friend category, because you are helping. If you're helping them, you must be helping them because you like them. They are a friend. And so, just borrowing a cup of sugar is a great way of meeting your neighbors, because it clicks them into thinking you are their friend because they've done something for you. And if you show up later with like some home-baked cookies, hey, I just want to thank you, something like that, and you start building from there. Or borrow a tool or borrow something, and then return.
That's really good advice there. Because going back to the Peachtree City part of my life, I took another Uber ride, and it was a black man, and he said he had been living in Peachtree City. The first time I rode with him, because we rode two different times, I guess he didn't remember me the second time, but the first time he said he had been living there 15 years. Second time he said he lived there 17 years, and both times he said he doesn't know his neighbors.
Well, the next time you ride with him, say, here's what you do. You knock on the door, say, hey, I desperately need a cup of sugar. Can you help me out here? And it's such an innocuous request, and people go, yeah. And especially, if they see you, the neighbors probably know you're not some stranger, and it's just not someone you've ever talked with. So,
right,
it works very well. A 10 millimeter socket, an extension cord, just something.
Well, all right. I think that's where we're going to end today's episode. So, long story short, ladies and gentlemen, touch grass, meet your neighbors, and take care of yourself.
Most definitely.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Lavender Water Podcast. I've been your host, Matthew Williams, and this has been my special guest, Mark.
Merriwether, Vorderbruggen.
All right. You're welcome on the show anytime. If you got any free time in the future, past your bookings and seminars and workshops and activities, just reach out to me and we'll make it happen.
Cool. I got plenty more to say to the world. So.
All right. You have a wonderful day, and thank you for speaking today.
Oh, thank you. Like every preacher loves a new pulpit, so you gave me an excellent pulpit to preach from. I appreciate that very much.
For sure. All right. You take care.
Stay cool and have a good one.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Peace.